Ms. Sterner, the principal at Madison Park, informing me that Elijah's retention had been repealed and that he would be placed in the 3rd grade despite the documented retention plan as a part of his IEP, a legal document. After processing this information, I communicated with the district administrators and I was directed to another administrator, but through the communication back and forth, one message was clear, that the superintendent had given a directive that was a command that was going to be followed. There were no retentions for any reason. So when I communicated with the last administrator, Dr. Gregory cannot give me a guarantee that my autonomy as his parent will be respected, or that Elijah's retention plan would remain in place. So I withdrew him. I'm his mother. I have autonomy as his parent. With this in mind, I will state my concerns for the district. My main concern is, how can a district proceed forward successfully when true collaboration is not honored? I experienced that as a parent, and I'm speaking solely as a parent. Thank you for your ear and communication. Once again, I'm sorry, I was nervous.
Thank you. Next up, we have board reports. NSBA, National Connection Fee.
I have a question first, Madam Chair. if you don't mind. I would like to know if the lady that just spoke, why her son was retained, or why he was moved on?
What we typically do whenever there's comments, they will be addressed, and they will be addressed with our process that we have in place through the superintendent.
And she can
Okay.
expect a return?
Absolutely.
As a,
We will. You just need to do the investigation, because superintendent, we don't know if it was last year's superintendent, or we don't know if it's current, okay?
It was current.
It's current, okay. But again, we will make sure that it is addressed.
but somebody will reach out to her within 48 hours?
The superintendent will reach out with the information, okay?
I
We need
just
to make
had-
sure.
No need, I just have the question of how will the district go forward if true collaboration is not honored? That's all. Unfortunately, I had to make a hard decision. I didn't want to.
Can we make sure that we have that question answered? And you and I will talk, I mean, we can talk as well.
Thank you.
We should.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Next up, board report, NSBA, National Connection Fees. It's action? All right. My information did not open, okay? So, it is still spinning. Okay, so what we are voting on tonight, taking action, are our fees for NSBA. And basically, this is an annual invoice, all right, which is up for renewal. And it's renewable for January 2019 through December 2019. The fees have remained constant, and it's based on student enrollment? Okay. So, I need a motion to accept board item A as presented.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? Okay, being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes. Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. Next up, board item B, policy review. And that policy review is listed recordings of district meetings involving students and our parents. And I know that the policy committee had actually been working on those policies, but if you guys have had the opportunity to look through, I need a motion to accept item S, or B, I'm sorry. Is that information? Yeah.
So,
I don't have my computer, so I can't tell if they're information or they're action items, okay? Thank you, okay. It's really hard, okay? So, Okay, thank you so much.
There we go, so this is, there we go.
Okay, so this is for information only?
There it is.
Okay, now, okay,
If you need, I can, do me go through it real quick.
yeah, okay.
So there was policy that, that currently existed. Let me go to it. Policy, section, PO 2461. There was a line there that says video recording in any district meeting is strictly prohibited. That needs to be removed. We can't prohibit video recording from any meeting. However, we can set parameters around video recording of any of the meetings. So the suggestions that were made are additions to what already exists. In policy PO 0169.1, the current policy states that tape or video recordings are permitted. The person operating the recorder should contact the superintendent prior to the board meeting to review possible placement of equipment and must agree to abide by the following conditions. So the addition there that we would like to add would include tape or video recordings are permitted, and the person operating the recorder should contact the superintendent at least 48 hours in advance to the board meeting to review possible placement of equipment and must agree to abide by the following conditions. And they are as follows. No obstructions are created between the board and the audience. No interviews are conducted, and these are what already exists. No interviews are to be conducted in the meeting room while the board is in session. No commentary, adjustment of equipment, or positioning of operators is made that would distract either the board members or the audience while the board is in session and not disrupt the meeting. We kind of took a look at adding verbiage there that says that they would need to be at least 50 feet from the dais, and the recording equipment must be self-contained, which means they would not be allowed to plug it in. They would have to have their own self-containment, self-powered and things like that. And the portion of the meeting, and again, this is current policy, the portion of the meeting during which the participation of the public is invited shall be limited to 30 minutes unless extended by vote of the board. Now, because these are just for information, we do want to allow the opportunity to submit it through the attorney, and then have the second reading of the adjustments at our work session in November.
Okay. Thank you. Next up are treasurer's items. And there is action.
I have,
Requested.
yes, there are three, a resolution to accept the minutes for September 6th, 2018, the minutes for September 20th, 2018, and the minutes for September 27th, 2018.
I need a motion to accept the treasurer's item A, B, and C as presented.
So moved.
I'll second.
Been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes. Motion passes. Next up. We have item D.
I have a resolution to accept the then and now certification for FY19 per ORC 570541 for the Pioneer Turf. Pioneer Turf. And the amount of $9,926. Again, a then and now is a certificate that says that there was a purchase made prior to a purchase order. And so the board has to approve anything over $3,000.
I need a motion to accept treasurer's item D as presented.
I'll second.
Been properly moved in second. Are there any questions?
I did just have one, not really a question, but a comment. There was some discussion at the last meeting about that. Just want to be sure that those have been worked out,
Yeah,
at least
absolutely.
procedural.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that's all I have.
Okay, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes.
Mr. Scares.
Yes.
And Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes.
The next one is the amounts and rates for tax year 2018, 2019. I did a presentation last at the work session, so I'm asking for your approval for the amount and rates from Montgomery County.
I need a motion to accept treasurer's item E as presented.
I'll move. I'll second.
Been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Jeter Freeman.
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes.
Mr. Scares.
No.
And Ms. Moore.
Yes. Motion passes.
The-
Okay.
Okay,
Go
I was
right
waiting
ahead.
for you.
No, I'm good.
Okay, the next item is a new item that was not on the work session. It is a request to approve the amended appropriation for this FY19. And on your reports, I highlighted the funds that were changed. And then I think you should have a second document as well to summarize the changes to the appropriations from the last time that we did this. It was in June, and now we're doing it in October. So the first change is general fund, that's 001. The total appropriations, the new total appropriations is $37.5 million. I did increase that by $1.5 million to cover increased salaries, benefits, and additional capital outlay that we had this year. The next one was Fund 034, which is our classroom facilities. I did increase that from, I'll just go from 034, from $300,000 to $600,000. That is a difference of $300,000, and that is to cover the chiller replacement at the high school and any other facility upgrades for that. The next one is Fund 536. That was increased to from 88,880 to 124. We found out just recently that we did not lose the 35,128 that they did give it to us, and that was in the school improvement 1003 grant, and so we were able to use that, and I wanted to increase the appropriation in order to use that. So that was very good news.
Yeah,
Very
that was
good
money we
news.
thought we lost.
Yes,
Is that right?
absolutely. So very good news. The next one is Fund 587, and that was increased from 17,359 to 21,424.28, and that also is a brand new grant. It's called 6B Preschool Restoration, and I would just be honest, I'm not sure exactly where we're gonna use the $4,000, but it just was money, and I wanted you all to be aware of that so that we could appropriate those dollars. And then the last one was Fund 8, and that was increased by $33,750, and that's for scholarships. And so I wanted to increase that. So that makes the total appropriations of $48,774,531.51. like action on that.
It's requested, okay. I need a motion to accept, where is that, item, treasurer's item F as presented.
So,
I'll second.
Been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? I have a question on that, Ms. Allen.
Yes.
On the scholarship, $3,700, where did that come from?
There are different scholarships, and off the top of my head, like it's La Mandola, they're endowed scholarships,
Mhm.
La Mandola, Shell House, and so they got the scholarships at the end of the year in May, and some of them were $750, and so we have not paid for them yet, but we're in the process. The individuals have to send information back, like their student ID
Mhm.
and where they're going to college, because a lot of times they change.
Okay.
Where
So
they're
it's just
going.
sitting out there?
Yes,
You just-
so, yes.
Any other questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Well, Mr. Scares,
yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. Next item up? Oh, you need your paper, okay.
I'm sorry, I don't know why mine's
That's
not.
okay.
Yes, I need that.
We are still in the experimental mode
Yes, we are.
of board docs, making sure technology works. And it's
Okay.
good when it works.
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay, so I do have several items that I would like to present under the financial reports for you. And the first one is the cash reconciliation report, and that's for September 2018. You can see the bank balances at the top, $5.1 million. Our investment balances total $34.9 million. That totals is $40,049,281.25. Your outstanding vendor checks in the amount of $902,695.41. There were some payroll adjustments of $281.24 that brought in, with an addition of the other outstanding checks, the adjusted bank balance then ties exactly to the meta financial balance, and so our variance bank to book is 0. The next one is our spending plan, our annual spending plan. It shows your revenues and expenditures for the, through the month of September and and so the second column is the monthly actuals for September, and then you can see the fiscal year-to-date actuals. And so all the way to the bottom, you can see the beginning cash balance and ending cash balance, and then the outstanding encumbrances, and that's outstanding purchase orders that have not been processed. The last item is checks over $1,000, and I have several checks that were brought up during the finance committee meeting, so if you give me a minute to go through them, I did pull them. So there are quite a few, so it's about 10 of them, so please bear with me. Okay, so, and then, Mr. Superintendent, if you could help if there's some things. Okay, so Northwest Evaluation Association, that's NWEA, and this is the check that was cut, and it says, and I'm just gonna read it and you can embellish it, math growth and math growth for math, reading, and science.
It's a MAC benchmark assessment,
Right.
MAC benchmark assessment.
The next one was for Buddy's Roger Music, and that was in the amount of $25,385. That was for band instruments. So they bought a saxophone, a baritone, a trombone, a trumpet, and a mellophone. So that's what we thought, but I just wanted to make sure. The next one was Silver Strong and Associates, $21,625.15. And that just says Dr. Harvey Silver, Susan, there was for $21,000. There's math tools and grades for $584, and then shipping and handling for $40.90.
That's our professional.
PD.
next one was $3,267.79. It was check 90371. And it says invalid vendor, and I'll double check why it says invalid vendor, but the check was actually cut to Shumsky's Promotional, and it was for seniority pins for new staff and seniority pins for first year members. And that was through, I think HR bought those. So I'll double check why that says that invalid vendor, but it was not an invalid vendor. The next question was one right underneath that one, at total $3,234.08 to Henry Shine. And it looks like, maybe you can help me out, Mr. Superintendent, it looks like.
Medical supplies. Medical supplies.
Yeah, from the high school. So it's like their clinic supplies. And so that was a total for their clinic supplies. Edgenuity, that was a check for $2,040, and it says Odyssey K-12 multi-user. Oh, it's a subscription, Odyssey K-12 multi-user subscriptions from July 2018 to 2019. Oh, I'm sorry, this was Mother Bruner. That's Mother Bruner's, yeah. The next one is Peggy Dubrowski, all the way at the bottom, second from the bottom, total of $1,826. And that says social emotional learning, and that was through a grant, our 590 grant, and that's school, I think an improvement grant. And she made a presentation for Mother Bruner Catholic School on August the 16th, 2018. Three more. Someone asked about Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola blanket PO to cover costs of case drinks for concession stands from September 2018 through May, and that's through the Fund 300. Next one is $1,100.96 $1,196.12, and it's to Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, and that's for certified and non-certificated employees and its unemployment. I think we said that. I want to double check. And the last one is Adolph Kiefer and Associates, $1,100.51. This one is Kiefer latex caps and mermaid fins and rolling equipment. I'm not sure.
High school.
It's swimming equipment for the high school.
I see goggles and fins.
Thank you. It's swimming equipment for the high school. And so that was all that came out of the finance committee. Are there any others that anyone wants to check on?
Okay. I need a motion to accept treasurer's item G as presented.
I'll move.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved in second. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a few comments.
Okay.
The first one is in regards to the band. Though obviously I don't have any problems, getting the instruments and things the band needs. But prior to purchasing that, we talked about how they were going to be taken care of and how we're going to maintain and make sure we have everything for next year, because we don't want to continue to pay out that large amount every single year. So is there a plan on the books as to how the instruments will be cared for, how the uniforms will be cared for, those kinds of things, so that we don't have to worry about constantly repurchasing? And I think the same thing goes for the books that we looked through. Of course, we did a couple of libraries, and so there's a lot that went into purchasing books. And again, Ms. Jeter Franklin mentioned, you know, what's the plan? Are the students going to the library? You know, what are some of the plans that are gonna be taking place? Because we don't want the libraries there just to look good. We wanna make sure that the students are actually using the libraries.
Right. I don't know if their schedules were changed to allow time. We have two student representatives that I like to defer to. So how often do you go to are you aware that students go in to do homework or?
Well, that's what we're used to, but as of this school year, we haven't really been allowed to go to the library or the career center. So it's been kind of taken away from us, and we're not really sure why.
Can you find out and let us know? Yeah, because that's something that would definitely need to change. Need to make sure students can go to the library. And we just purchased a lot of books. Matter of fact, we purchased books for every school library. We just want to make sure that they're being used. Okay?
And then one other thing, this is Ms. Jeter Franklin is not speaking up. I guess I'm speaking to her too. Because she had a lot to say in the finance meeting. She's not saying anything now. Okay. Additionally, you know, we've put out a lot of money for also professional development, and that's one of the things we got dinged on last time with the state was that teachers wanted the professional development, but we weren't providing it. So it looks like we're really providing it. I know we're paying for it. So we just wanted to also, kind of like with everything else, tutoring and such, we want to kind of know who's been participating over the summer, you know, now. I think the stuff that we got from Dr. Silver were those books that we just purchased, I think because there was some shipping involved with that, so I'm guessing those are those books that we received. How many people are they using those books in the class? You know, what kinds of things are going on?
Very good.
PDF dates.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely want to see it, because if we're putting the money out, we want to make sure that, you know.
Utilize it.
And it's not so much the books, I'll add on to your comment. To the numbers, you know, we're tracking everything, so have all of our staff been able to have that time to do the professional development? So as we're tracking, you know, the students' data, then also the teacher data, like, yeah.
The summer PD, was that voluntary?
Summer was, yes.
Okay, that was all voluntary?
And we were kind of talking about, you know, that summer is one thing, but when school's in session, it's kind of hard to
Really
manage it, you know, all, so.
With everything else that they're doing.
So, just kind of thinking about that too.
So one of the things that Chair kind of speaking in regards to professional development, it is really hard to get staff free time. If you notice in the news, Dayton is going to release time where they're using days for professional development. I was going to bring this up as a part of my superintendent's comments later. But one of the things I'll be coming to the board and asking, because I wanted to see how October 12th and 1st with our teacher records day. We had over 95% of our staff attend. And my thing was, this is a day without students, but the staff attended. So one of the things I'll be coming back to the board to really assure that we're able to really drive home the professional development that we've spent money on is actually looking at some 3 days, possibly in January, where we can do professional development with our teachers. And looking at the dates of January 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, possibly. It's a short week, coming right back from Christmas break, holiday break, and looking at then having the students stay home, but have our teachers come in because it's a regular work day for teachers, and really drive home the work that we've been talking about. It also then links back into the work of the state support team, as well as the things that Ohio Department of Education kind of lists as some things that we need to follow up on. So, you know, we have to find a way of providing teachers with time to really focus on the work versus working and then trying to get the professional development. So.
Yeah. So we're working with the union, of course, on
We're working with the
making
union,
sure
yes.
those dates are good.
Okay.
So,
If I can just be, play devil's advocate for a second. When we look at the music equipment for the band at $25,000 plus, I just want us to keep that in mind when investments for theater and investments for choir and investments for everything else come into play. And that's all. I just want to make sure that's on the record. Make sure everybody hears that and knows that. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes. Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mr. Scares,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes. We're now at the superintendent's items.
Yes, Superintendent item A is the New York field trip. I have a resolution authorizing Trotwood Madison High School choir students to travel to New York City for an arts educational field trip on March 28th through April 3rd, 2019.
And that is for action, or information, so it says information, is that for action?
It's for action, it's for action.
Okay. So that is an action item. I need a motion to accept superintendent item A, New York field trip.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Been properly moved in second. Are there any questions? We're going to see the Lion King?
And they want to see many things.
Oh.
They have a packed agenda. It's a solid agenda.
Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman.
Yes.
Mr. Scares.
Yes.
And Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes.
Superintendent's item B, a resolution to approve the Trotwood Madison High School Muse Machine Student Activity Account, Trotwood Madison High School S1 Singer Student Activity Account, Trotwood Madison High School Choir Student Activity Account, Trotwood Madison High School National Honor Society Student Accounts for the school year 2018-2019.
This is for information, it says
Yeah, it's,
information.
these are action items,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
That one is 5 essentials in information, five essentials.
Okay.
in education.
B is.
But B is
B
for
is-
action.
B is for
Okay.
action.
All right, I need a motion to accept superintendent's item B as presented.
I'll move. I have a comment later.
Okay.
I'll second.
Been properly moved in second. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, so for, I'm sure those of you that have been here a while, for all of our student programs, one of the things the board would request was an agenda of things and actions for each group, like things they will be doing, or, so that we just get a feel for, you know, how we're developing leadership and for, yeah.
So the activities of the student activities accounts?
Well, the,
Activities for-
those that are,
Okay.
so for Honor Society, for, I forget all the ones, for
Okay.
our, we had our student government induction this morning. But what are some of the things, that are planned for those students in regards to leadership? How are we growing them into little mini leaders?
Right.
So, Ms. Jeter Freeman, you're saying for each one of these, like, for specifically what we're talking about, which is like Muse Machine, Trotwood Madison High School, is it singers, as one singers, the choir,
But
and
those,
the National Honor Society, you wanna know how they're being developed, specifically this particular?
and I understand the Muse Machine and those, I think they have things planned, but, and we probably get notified of those. But for those where, and my daughter was in everyone you could think of, but, they were very active, you know, they had the blood drives, they had the, you know, if there's a hurricane or something, the students organized that. So I wanna make sure that we're having them relate to real world things that are happening, and that they get to organize what that looks like, what is that? So I want their voice in, yeah. And, you know, I wanna develop real time.
Student engagement,
Yeah.
are they being engaged?
Right.
We had a group last forget, Miss Miracle was, do you remember, our board rep, Arthur, was part of a group, and it was PS, I don't.
PS Pride.
PS Pride.
PS Pride.
Okay, we still have that
We
PS
do.
Pride?
We do.
Okay. I know they did a lot of activities, along the lines of what you're talking about, drives and really community initiatives, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I've not heard, I know I actually attended some of those meetings, last year, and they're still hosting the meetings and all of that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Every Wednesday,
Okay. Are you part of that?
Yes,
PSI?
I'm chairperson.
Oh, okay.
And just to be clear, I'm not saying we're not doing it. I'm just saying the board would
Information.
like information on what does it look like? Because I know that we had them go to the leadership conference at, yeah, so,
Send that, Lisa.
yeah, so things like that.
Okay. Any other questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mr. Scares,
Yes.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes, motion passes.
Superintendent's item C, Five Essentials contract. This is just for information. One of the things we're looking at doing is like a 360 evaluation of our after-school programs, as well as the reading and math that go on after school. Looking at using Five Essentials, they'll look at then parent engagement, student engagement, teacher engagement as a separate evaluation tool for our program. And some of this is in regards to, we have Dr. Stock who comes in at the end of the program evaluation, but also that's just looking at student learning. My thing would be, what are the other outcomes that we could be looking at in regards to the program? Because again, student outcomes are one of those from an academic standpoint. What are the social values students may be getting, and also a parent voice in regards to the after-school program. We've done a good job of getting some of the parent voice through our parent engagement during the daytime, but I'm not sure we're capturing the voice of our parents in the afternoon yet. Again, that's just information. Want to do some more research on this and come back.
So one other thing, I have a question, Madam President.
Mhm.
As it relates to really any of these surveys, as they go out, do parents, faculty, staff understand that it is a third party and that information it comes from the third party and goes back to the third party? Is that clear, or do they think it goes somewhere else, or that's it?
I think one of the things, we've been trying to be clear in that messaging. However, I think sometimes there's a lack of trust initially. It's gonna take more time to build up trust amongst people understanding that we're using this information not to be punitive, but to really drive the district and seeking information so we can make good, better decisions. So we want to be data driven, but the data is not being used in a punitive manner. And I share with you, we've seen data out, the staff members are starting to shift a little bit when it comes to our common formative assessments that we give weekly. Initially, it was an idea that I believe that these will be used against teachers. I think teachers are now starting to see that it's really about information and how can we work together to find out what students know and do not know, so they can actually improve their craft in the classroom. So all in all, I say that the survey's information has been sent out, but I'm not so sure everyone trusted that it was not being used against people.
So how did it go out? From a third party,
From a
or did
third
it go
party.
out? Oh, it went out from a
Yeah,
third party.
third party. I think it came third party unless Marnie would have sent it out, who had all the emails from the emails.
How long are these surveys? I mean, are they time consuming, or is it real short?
One had 21 questions, I think, took 10 minutes.
Okay.
There's another one the students filled out. I'm not sure how long that one took. There was a student survey as well.
You guys
Youth Truth
do
survey.
the Youth Truth survey?
It was,
I think it was that, yes, we did. Some of us participated in that.
Like 2 pages long.
it was 2 pages.
Pages long? Okay.
Do any of these surveys cover the same material? Like, anyone that we're currently contracted with, do we know whether or not they're capturing the same information, or at least some of it?
Similar information, and again, that would be a good way for us to actually triangulate the information. If it's saying on one survey and we see it on the second one, then we know it's a true statement. So there's some data has started to come back in. We action the data. I want to sit down with the administrative team and get some feedback from them before we even start pushing it out, because I will look at it one way and someone else will look at it, my thing is sit down with my team. We're going to look at some data this week, this past Tuesday, however many of the members out in different trainings and things, so I didn't get a chance to talk about it.
And the other part of kind of why I ask is, if we've already paid for one survey to capture a piece of information, that another survey that we have to pay for, again, is gonna capture the same information? Like, is there a way that we can utilize what we already have?
Right. The two different surveys. The Orgometrics was really about the staff, trying to get their feedback. And then the youth truths around students and their attitudes, perceptions about school. The 5 essentials is all three. But again, when you took the 5 essentials, really looking at after school type programs, so you'll have a select group. And I would say from a research standpoint, if you have 30 students or 30 parents who participate in it, it makes it kind of like a ballot study for us, being a small organization. So we can look at that. But again, we really are trying to align this information. The challenge, even with like a 5 essentials, remember that would be more or less pre-K-5, K-5 that we're really looking at and targeting specifically with parents. When we did the youth truth, that was really just about students and what their perceptions are. So the answer is, they have similar information, but they're coming from different angles.
So the orgometrics, have we done that one? for
Yes,
staff?
yeah, we have that
And
information.
so we have the results?
Yeah, we do.
Did we have at least 50% participation?
No.
Okay, so one of the things the board, since we have to pay for that survey as well, I don't know if we want to think about, how do we get every staff? We want at least 95% participation, because that's information that really drives and informs this board of what we need to know and the culture that we talk about in our strategic plan to make sure we're moving to that culture that we talk about, in the strategic plan. So can we pay staff a half an hour to take this? I mean, I really want it done,
You're
so.
talking about incentivizing.
Yeah, and the reason I said that is this. I understand that they're overwhelmed, they're busy. And it's like, I don't have another 10, 15 minutes at the end of the day or at the beginning of the day to take no survey. I'm running around chasing these kids. And I'm doing all these other assessments. So if that, I don't know how we would even go about trying to do that, but I want surveys. I want like at least 95%. So, and for those that took it, I don't know, do we already just give them a half an hour pay or something? I don't know. But when we say we're intentional about what it is this board is trying to do, and we can't do it unless we have the information, and we need all the information.
And also, if I can add to that, if we know, or at least we're speculating that part of this is maybe some of the results didn't come back based on, maybe lack of trust, then we need to figure out how to get it out and back so that they feel that they can trust it. So it shouldn't go out from Marlin if they think, you know what I'm saying, or it shouldn't come back to you. It needs to go out from a third party and go back to a third party.
I think, just sharing, I think us having a conversation about it in an open forum, I think people understand that we're really honest and sincere about getting feedback. I can reach back out to the company and ask them to resubmit it, send it out again, just to see how much more feedback we get.
It's a different.
Right.
Because again, we're having a conversation about it. I think at the time when we sent it out, we had not publicly had any conversation about surveys, and all of a sudden here's a survey on my screen asking me to fill out something. So the question maybe on the backside is what happens now in this information? So I can definitely reach back out to Mark and give feedback Saturday at our retreat.
Is there a way to partner maybe with the union so they can convey that this is, that this isn't anything bad? We literally want to help.
And like Ms. Jeter Freeman said, really doing something to stimulate the participation. I mean, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, whatever that looks
I
like.
mean, we don't know what it looks like, but getting more people to participate. I mean, it might be,
How long do the surveys usually take on average?
The orgometrics, I think 10 to 15 minutes max.
10 minutes?
Yes.
Yeah, but I think the main issue is trust. I mean, they send it out and then all the results come back to.
Right, it goes back to the third party, and then they send it, they actually do their kind of crunching analytics with it, then they send it back to us, sit down and make decisions with it.
Just
Like
think
the
maybe a
perception.
communication piece. We
Right.
have to really communicate what we're doing and why we're doing it, and how important it is that their voices be heard. We got a very small number back from the organizers, right?
Yes.
I don't know, maybe, ask the staff, what is the issue? I mean, it's 10 minutes. I mean, what would really make them be more open to taking these surveys? I mean, they might say, okay, it goes out, we would want, I don't know, I don't know what they would want, but, just ask the staff to find out what would make them comfortable with taking.
Maybe the union
Okay,
leadership.
I'll tell you this, I work for the base, they would send surveys. I hate it, most people hate surveys, so they would shut your computer down until you took the survey. So, we can't do that, but people don't like surveys.
So what are you saying, don't pay everybody until they take the survey? What are you saying? Okay, no, I'm just joking.
Don't paychecks until everybody.
You just want to hold paychecks? I don't think that's a good idea.
I was trying to incentivize, not really help.
That's how they actually did that.
I abstain.
They would tell
You
us.
abstain? I abstain too. Okay.
So one of the things I'll reach out to Tim Yates, their leadership, and ask, what can they do to support this, and figure out how can we get a higher rate of return of the surveys, understanding that this information is being utilized to help improve the organization.
Thank you.
Because otherwise, we can't hear what they don't say, and we can't have the data to make the decisions that are gonna drive the change in the district.
Correct.
Thank you. And that was just information.
That was informational.
Okay. All right, personnel agenda?
Yes, personnel agenda. Again, the bolder ones are the things that are added on. A lot more supplemental things want to get added on just so we get started because the seasons are coming up. Under A1, a recommendation for approval of the following certified employee to be used as an as-needed basis. Those individuals are part of the 21st Century Program. A2, recommendation for approval of the following supplemental contracts for the 2018-2019 school year. These are supplemental, positions for this school year, for this year. I think there was one change here, I'm not sure. There was one, I think it's been amended. If you look under A2, about halfway down on the second page, I have a hard copy, so on the second page, Sean Herbert. That's him. He's again facility manager. That was only changed in the area. We had him listed as another position earlier.
Okay. And that's just a supplemental?
That's a supplemental. A3, recommendation for approval of the following certified limited contracts for 2018-2019 school year. This is again hire a mental health specialist. B1, recommendation for approval of the following classified resignations. B2, recommendation for approval of the following classified employment for the 2018-2019 school years. Again, these individuals are replacing as other individuals leave. B3, recommendation for the following classified employment to be used on an as-needed basis for the 2018-2019 school year. Again, event staff, 21st Century staff, clerical support. B4, recommendation for the approval of the following extra service contracts for the 2018-2019 school year. Again, these are supplementals as well for extra work that individuals do for the district. Again, these are a lot of coaching kind of activities and things like that. I think this goes back to what Ms. Jeter Freeman was asked about earlier. What are these individuals doing, those leaders of these groups, what are they doing in regards to developing student leadership?
Thank you. Need a motion to accept, and this is action.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Need a motion to accept superintendent item D as presented. motion on the table?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. Questions? I have a question under A2. What is an LPDC committee?
Well, Professional Development Committee, these individuals who go back and look at the teachers' plans,
Okay.
administrators' plans, making sure we're moving toward our own professional growth, yes.
So there's a chairperson and
Yeah.
there's committee members.
Yes.
That's new to the district, though, right? Or is it, I don't know. No.
That's for, it's a committee that helps folks renew their license. So
Oh, okay.
when certified staff members' license are up for renewal, they have to do certain things, either college credit or keep track of professional development hours. And so that committee evaluates what the certified staff submit, and then they approve their license renewal.
Okay, I just didn't.
Okay.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah.
They also approve the treasures as well, so not just certified, they approve classified as well.
Classified as
So
well.
I have to submit to that LPDC committee a list of 5 years worth of my PD, and they just
Oh.
look at it.
That makes
So it's
sense.
for the
they
entire
approve it,
district.
And then I
Yeah.
get my license.
I thought you did that all on your own.
Okay.
If I can, I just would like to see a little consistency, like none of the added names, of course, were in the personnel agenda for the work session. I would just like those to be as congruent as possible. Like the names that are gonna be in the works, because it almost kind of really defeats the purpose of the work session if we're not presented with the information before we actually get to the regular meeting, just to make sure all the names that we know are gonna be, that are coming up for hire, to make sure that that list is the same list that we looked at in the work session. Otherwise, it should have to wait until the next work session. That was my only hesitation.
Is there a reason why?
Yeah, Mrs. Martin was out at a training the whole week, in regards to trying to get information back, but one of the things we've talked about as well, again, we will have this in the future, whatever is submitted, it will be final, and then we'll have to wait. Again, we're not gonna make an emergency at the table here based on us not being able to get the work done in time. The other thing I would share with you in regards to these supplementals for coaching and things like that, these are things that if we already know who the coaches are, let's get some information in front of the board so we get this stuff boarded now, versus probably for spring sports. We know they're coming, we have our coaches to get it done and be done with it. So we're working on that, and these are all processes that we're putting in place, and trying to keep our system rolling, but we're learning as we go, and we'll definitely get better at this.
Yeah, and not just this, but this agenda as a whole, making sure that the union gets it the Friday before the meeting, just so that they get it early and not 2 days before, or what have you. So, again, just really tightening up this whole
Right.
process. Any other questions? Being none, Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mrs. Bozeman,
Yes.
Mrs. Jeter Freeman,
Yes, abstain on A2 and do a track.
Mr. Scares,
Yes, abstain on B4, I have a relative there.
and Ms. Moore.
Yes. So motion passes. Personnel agenda has been adopted. Approved. Next up,
Is it AmeriCorps?
yes, discussion items and
Yes,
updates.
discussion item. Kiera, you want to talk about AmeriCorps? Just give a quick update on AmeriCorps, where we are with AmeriCorps.
Sure. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Okay, so as presented before, we want to partner with AmeriCorps, who provides service in the form of interventions, direct student services to schools upon request. And each AmeriCorps member is $4,500, and that's to provide us 900 hours for the duration of the school year. And so we are proposing to support our K-3 literacy all of our students that we know that we have that are needing intensive support. We're asking for AmeriCorps members to support our Madison Park and ELC buildings for that purpose. Currently, right now, our kindergarten is showing 75% needing intensive support. First grade, 74%. Second grade, 63%, and third grade, 53%. And so what we hope is that right now, all of the academic plans, reading and improvement plans, all those different plans, even enrichment plans are being finalized right now. And we want to make sure that every student is provided whatever intervention or intensive support, not as intensive support, that the teacher can provide that support, but not neglect the other things, because the teacher can only be one person serving a certain number of kids and provide that adequate, effective intervention to a certain group of students. And they could do it more, but we don't want it to take away from the core instruction as well. So we really do need AmeriCorps to help supplement the instruction that needs to take place. And that would be for the duration of the year, full time.
Cost.
So for
36,000.
yes, 36,000 total, but it breaks down to about 4,500 per member
Right.
for
And
the
it was
year.
6 members, right? I think.
Um, No, I'm sorry, it's 8 members altogether.
Oh, is it 8?
Yes. 4 during the day, that will be from beginning of the school day to the end of the school day. And then 4 more, that will be half-time, they'll be full-time, but they'll work half-time during the school day, and then they'll extend into 21st century, so that students who need intensive support, maybe one way to intensify their support is to continue it more small group in the afternoon during 21st century. So those AmeriCorps members will continue to see those kids for more time in the afternoon. It'll be like a pull-out for afternoon. During the day, they will push into the classroom and support. And so upon approval, what will happen is they will come into our schools, they will simulate, learn the school culture, be trained in whatever intervention strategies that we're using as a district. And then the schools will decide where they're best fit to make sure all the students, 100% of students are getting their needs met. Okay?
Thank you.
Mhm.
21st Century Grant,
Thank you.
before and after school programs.
Yes. 21st Century Grant, we started last week. Kind of give you some updates on numbers. We have before school program and after school. Before school at Westbrook, we have 10 individuals who are taking advantage of before school. At Madison Park, there are 20 individuals. At the Early Learning Center, up to 20 individuals in the morning taking advantage of before school program. After school programming, we're running close to 50 at each of our buildings for a total of about 150 students. That's Westbrook, Madison Park, and the LC. About 150. There's a waiting list I can share with you at each of the schools. We're waiting to hire on these other workers. We'll be running our school programs before you actually add the other students in. I can share with you in my years of running after school 21st Century program, this is really the best start I've ever seen in 21st Century program. We didn't have any kids lost the first night. We had a couple, that again, being new, we had some parents we had to contact twice, and just to let them know, hey, it's time that we got to send your kid home, bring the kid home to you. But other than that, it's been a good start. The state came in today on their surprise visit. They went to the ELC. I know they were at the ELC, may have went to other buildings. They did their site visit today. The advantage is, Tasha's really laid out a solid program where the program is run without her being here. And again, the lines of communications are very clear what happens. Tasha's in Columbus. She's hearing about the evaluation going on. She's texting back to the district saying, hey, can somebody pull X, Y, and Z and help support the OD department here that's doing the site visit. So things in the school program seem to be going pretty good. We'll wait about another month and then come back and do an assessment of what's going on and provide some feedback and see if we need to make any adjustments at that time.
What's the number, the capacity of students that we can actually handle in the after-school program?
for the grant, it's
For the
50
grant.
50 per building, that's for the grant. So if we're looking at.
50 per building.
50 per building, that's 150 students where we are right now.
Mhm.
But if we're looking at adding additional students in, and I say additional students, thinking particularly of Madison Park, we wanna bring in a third grade students and really do a focused approach with those students. We'll need to hire additional staff members to work with those students after school, because again, I say third grade, because of third grade we can guarantee.
Okay. Also, how is the transportation working?
Transportation is working well. I can defer to Marlon, over there. I haven't heard any concerns from transportation the first night. Like I said, we had a couple hiccups
Yeah.
from kids, not being picked up or whatever, but other than that, I have not heard anything. Marlon, have you heard anything?
That's it. Everything's been going pretty well so far.
Yeah, I know we had like a little hiccup, in the beginning because kids were signed up but not really registered or
Right,
something
right.
along those lines, is that correct?
Yes.
So those kids are now registered?
They're registered,
Okay,
assigned, drop-off sites and everything.
okay. And no problems at all with transportation?
No.
We're good. Next, any other questions on the 21st century or comments? Preschool.
Preschool, to share with you, our full day component of our preschool program is full. Every seat is occupied. For the half day component that we have some open slots still available. We'd like to really think about possibility of expanding the full day preschool opportunities next year and think through what would that look like for us. Even though we still have to have at least one class that will be half day. The half day is a funded portion for special needs students. The full day portion would not be funded, but I think the trade-off is, we're working with kids trying to get them prepared for kindergarten. So we can pay up front or we're gonna pay on the back end. The students coming to us not prepared. As we shared earlier, 75% of our kids in grades K through 5 are really reading below grade level. And again, intensive need of reading support. So I'm thinking about adding a preschool, and the research supports it. If we get the parents and these kids into our preschool program, we can really strengthen the skills of school before kindergarten. But I think there's some things we need to look at the different options. This is Jordan Isaac sent out a survey, and we had a few parents reply back, and some of the survey results were, if you had preschool, what would you do? Well, many of them are actually looking for family members to take care of the students. So I asked Ella to go back and then to put the word free and bold it and underline it and say, because again, the notion has been preschool you could come, but you had to pay a fee. If you put free in front of it and we just sent the survey back out, what would that look like? So kind of feedback, and how many hits we get on that. This may be a case where I pay for the boost on Facebook Live, Facebook, to kind of find out what people in the community are saying in regards to preschool. Because it is a challenge, even as we talk to individuals in the community who have young kids and tell them about preschool, many of them have a detachment concern. Not really ready to have a kid go off to school yet. So there's some education that needs to happen with our community and really work through that whole notion about preschool.
Open enrollment.
Open enrollment, as we talked in the past, in our 5-year forecast, if you look 5 years out, we'll be doing deficit spending. But one of the things we can do is actually look at providing avenues to actually bring revenue back in. One of the things that we have not talked about is every 2 years, we have a ripple effect where we're losing kids as well who open enroll out. So to say 3 years ago, you may have had just 60 kids. Every 2 years, that number doubled. So now you're looking at 120 something. 2 years from now, it'll be 240 kids out. So as our numbers for our staffing, say it stays flat, if kids leave us, then we're still losing money. So we have to find a mechanism or a stream that can actually bring revenue back in. And again, I want to be very cautious and conscientious and very thoughtful about if we're going to bring individuals in, what would that look like? So I want to, at some point, have a conversation with the board about if we're going to do this, what would it look like? How might we go about inviting kids in? And just give you some quick numbers here. For the high school example, the high school holds 1,195 students. We only have 779 students there. So we have openings for roughly 425 kids. At the middle school, the capacity for that building is 1,120. We only have 560. It's almost like you can put another group of students the same amount in that building. So we have 985 students that we can actually slot, so we have available for seats that generate additional revenue for the district, so you're not deficit spending. Each kid, if you just look at a baseline number, is $6,020, just a baseline, but many of our kids, because of the challenges that they may have, come with additional dollars, but we use that baseline of $6,020 in calculating our 5-year forecast and thinking about additional students. One of the things that I shared as we think about how do you bring a group of students in without really upsetting the apple cart here to say the school system, you have to be very strategic and think through what that looks like, you know. So just some initial thoughts were 7th and 8th grade, bringing students in, and also in 11th grade. Students who've already, in the 11th grade, because these are students who've already established themselves in school, they understand what school's all about and matriculating through. Also, but 11th grade, not 9th and 10th, because these are large classes. 9th and 10th grade teachers have solid classes, and so you don't want to overwhelm the teachers at a grade level because we want to bring additional students in. The students also provide some pros, provide additional opportunities that we can then provide for our students here in Trotwood by having additional dollars.
And when we add that into the 5-year, we also have to account for, if we got so many, then there's additional staffing. So we would have to make sure that we account for not just this income from the students, but also the additional.
So that was gonna actually ask that as well. Is there a way to determine per class load exactly how many students we can take in without increasing expenditures for staff?
Yes,
Like that?
that's something we're working with Candace on here and really working with it, as well as Mary, and I'll have that data for you as well.
May I say something? I was gonna say, at the retreat on Saturday, there will be more discussion on open enrollment. Mr. Overson and myself work together, and we have some more information for you as it relates to the 5 years. So, you know, if we plug in so many students, how is this going to affect the bottom line? So we do have that information for you on Saturday.
And, oh, sorry. How specific can we get? I know we can kind of set the parameters around who we accepted. How specific can we get?
Well, you know, just thinking we use one school system. I've been researching Wentworth and Cincinnati. One of the things they've done, they looked at some criteria around students, you know, not having any attendance issues or not having any major infractions when it comes to discipline. Those students not being a part of that enrollment process. And then there's also a process where you can then do an interview with students as well. You open it up and then you interview students and find out why are they trying to come to your school system, and what are they trying to, what is the benefit for them coming to the Trotwood Madison City Schools?
And I know, at the retreat on Saturday, we're gonna look at, return on investment on programs. And programming along the lines, same with the preschool, what that looks like, how many students we would need, in the ratio with new staff and what that would look like. DLT, Five Rivers Health Center Initiative.
5 Rivers, I'll ask Mr. Howard if he'd like to share information on that.
I just have a real quick update. We are currently still in the negotiation process with 5 Rivers. We have a draft MOU at this point that 5 Rivers has submitted to us, and we've given to our legal department for review. Once our legal department comes back with whatever changes beneficial to the district, then we will resubmit to 5 Rivers, and then at that point, we will bring something to the superintendent, and he'll share with the board with regards to the health center.
Thank you. My question is, I know you already shared that this program is completely funded.
Completely funded.
So that means there's no hit on the general fund, there's no money out of pocket, there's nothing that we're gonna have to pay for.
No, there's no money in that stuff.
Thank you. DLT, District Leadership Team.
I'm gonna call Aaron Gregory up.
Good evening. Just want to share a few updates. Continuing to work with Betsy Appolito at the City Support Team 10. Actually, we even met today to look at the district leadership team and what we're doing in terms of creating our district improvement plan. That seems to be the area of focus of our greatest focus in terms of getting that plan rolled out so that the buildings can also work on their building improvement plans. So as a synopsis of what we did the last time in an overview is that we actually took the strategic vision, again, that the board created, the 2-day process, and look at those goals in order to distill those down and make those actually SMART goals so that they're measurable. Some of the feedback we got back after doing the process is that those goals, those SMART goals really have to be even dwindled down and distilled even further down and embedded down into actual objectives, looking at student objectives, looking at the strategies and creating those strategies. What are some of those high yield strategies that the district has already been doing and continue to do? So we're really looking at doing a deep dive in addition to the crosswalk that ODE is requiring us to do. So it's a lot of work. So really what we're trying to do is take what we did in probably 2 hours to really need a full day, if not a couple of days, in order to prepare for ODE's review.
Okay, so the review, what is the actual date of our next review?
Next Thursday, the date.
Oh, the DLT, you mean? The DLT or you
The
mean the ODE?
DLT meeting is set,
Thursday.
but ODE will be back
January.
January. So I think what would be helpful for the board is to have this timeline of actions and things that they're gonna look at that we have to have in place. So for the DLT, another area we got dinged on in the ODE report is not sharing out full results of what was captured during the DLT meeting. So we need to make sure that we have like a summary report to synopsize what it is we did during that DLT and kind of like a report out so that, you know, we had 5 groups, they worked on each of the goals and the purpose was to identify SMART goals. So we have to be really, really clear in articulating that we read the review, we noted what you said we needed to do in terms of the DLT, the BLTs, even in terms of their structure, their training, to make sure all of those are aligned and to make sure that they're meeting. Because what I don't want them to come back in and say, well, you've not met, you know, your BLTs and TBTs aren't up and running. And so I want to make sure we don't get dinged for not having our, you know, our processes and in place and up and functioning. So, and when I say layout, is what will ODE, when they come back in January, what will they look at? Will they do another interview with staff and board, or?
Really the biggest piece is the crosswalk. So we have to crosswalk with their plan, their written report that they produced. In the back of that is a crosswalk. So we need to crosswalk our plan with their plan to make sure that we address all their issues and concerns. The district improvement plan, in addition to the strategic plan, will be used to do that.
Okay.
So there's six critical areas. But when you're looking at the district improvement plan, you're looking at our academic goals, right? Reading and math.
Right.
As well as our non-academic goals, which would be around our PBIS,
Right.
behavior, attendance, discipline, those kind of things. In terms of the 5-step process, typically your minutes will be in that template, the 5-step process template. Okay. However, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Why? Because we're still working on putting together the plan. Once we have the plan, then we'll actually be able to put that into that, what to be those minutes. But we can do a summary, but it won't be in that 5-step process template. I was working on that today, but we haven't got there yet.
Okay.
So the SST is aware. They're aware. They've been communicating with ODE, so they know exactly where we are in the process. So we're.
And I'm good that SST is aware, but this board is gonna like overstep SST and say, we wanna make sure we're pushing forward.
Absolutely.
And I really don't care if SST says, you're good, that's not good enough for this board, for me.
Yes, I know that you've been attending the DLT meetings, and one of the big dings on our review as a board was really and truly that particular piece that Mrs. Freeman is talking about, documentation, summaries. They want to know what we're doing. I mean, they want to know if it's even happening, because documentation beats conversation any day. And so we really need to make sure that there's some documentation. Even if there's nothing happening, we need to talk about why it's not happening and where we are in that process. So
So
is that what
what-
you're really speaking of, Mrs. Jupiter?
What I can do is actually copy you on the communication I have at ODE, because we do communicate back and forth in writing.
Okay,
So make sure that you are copied on that.
okay, that will help. We're just, you know, we're just a little
We have to
nervous,
speak to it.
kinda on pins and
Yeah.
needles, so.
And then I do also have a comment too, just so you can help me understand. So when you're working on this district improvement plan, that should be the first step, right? And then from there, we go to building improvement plans, is that correct? So that means we don't have anything right now, is what you're saying, because you're still working on the district improvement plan. And so we haven't even, we're at the very beginning process of it all, right?
Correct.
So we're behind the
typically,
8 ball.
We're behind, but we'll get caught up. Typically, when you're looking at your district plan, that'll be done, we have a plan that's already in the CCIP, okay? You're required to have a plan within the CCIP. But there's also new data, new information. So when that new report came in, we actually had to kind of review the old plan, review your strategic plan, that was rolled out, and then create SMART goals based upon that, because we want to make sure that we include your vision.
So the old plan is what is currently in CCIP?
Correct. And then actually, there's multiple plans that are out there. I found that out today, that there's actually multiple district plans. But now we have to kind of take all those and condense them into one plan. So there is a plan, however, we need a new plan.
How does that impact at the building levels with the principals and the administrative staff? I mean, are they being asked to, submit documentation? Because again, we're working off the old plan, right? And there still has to be building plans.
So they have the template. The template is actually in the DLT folder, the template for their building improvement plans. We have their schedules. We know when they're meeting, that they are meeting, that they're having BLT meetings, they're having TBT meetings. So they're continuing to do the work. However, we are trying to play catch up and actually make sure that their building plans are in effect. One of the things we're looking at too is our strategies. What are our high yield instructional strategies that we're actually going to monitor? So there's a lot of data that's being collected, and now we just have to go ahead and make sure that we're collecting the correct data, the right data, make sure that we're actually getting, the proper information from that data.
So, Mr. Overson, do you have any ideas of how we can catch up?
Well, actually, great question. Aaron and I are meeting tomorrow to actually start working on something. He met with Betsy today, I believe, of SSC 10, and that's where he recognized there are many different plans out there still. So we're meeting tomorrow, carving out some time tomorrow morning. Then Betsy's coming back in tomorrow afternoon, I believe.
Your conference call coming tomorrow.
Conference call tomorrow afternoon. So we're gonna try to see what's out there and kind of merge all these plans together. And I told him he and I would then start to put this together and then get some things out and get going.
Okay.
So when you said there's a lot of plans out there, it's like on a website, it's on ODE's
In
website?
our CCIP, there's one plan, and there's written plans, and then strategic plan, things like that. We have to then crosswalk everything, all these plans, crosswalk it across to what ODE had inside the document they had.
Right,
So we have
at
crosswalk
the
all
very
across.
back,
Yeah, we
right.
have crosswalk it all across.
All right. And I thought you sent us something that showed a crosswalk.
I did.
Okay.
So that's, maybe we can model from that and start using it as a crosswalk.
Yeah.
But that was not designed by us, so we did not use that. So now it's maybe the time to use that tool to help us bridge where we are to where we want to go.
Okay. And we can talk more about that.
Yeah,
Because
we'll talk.
even we found out Janice has a goal that she has to come up with as well for the treasurer and financial office. She asked one based on our strategic plan, but they looking at even something a little more deeper,
Oh, okay.
more specific.
Yeah, we can have more dialogue on that on Saturday, what that looks like.
I just have one other comment. I just want to make sure that we're not, because it sounds like we're doing some, I don't know, it just sounds kind of messy to me. Are we expecting buildings to be turning in data? You just mentioned they have data, but then they're picking the wrong information because we have all these other plans out there. Should we just could they wait until this piece is cleaned up and then from there build their building improvement plans? Because it sounds like you're pulling a bunch of data that doesn't make any doesn't make
Well,
any sense.
We're not, the data is being pulled, for instance, walkthrough data, right? So there's data that's being pulled, data that's being analyzed, like discipline data. However, that's not data that we're specifically asking for them to pull for the BLT.
Okay.
But they already know, because we've been in OIP now for 7 years, so the process is still remains the same. So in terms of the data that's being collected, they're still gonna be looking at that data, reviewing that building-wide data to bring to the district. So we're still looking at district-wide data across the spectrum. However, we're not specifically guiding them and telling them right now through the district improvement plan, here's what data we're collecting. If that makes sense. So it is on hold,
Okay, on hold.
yes.
So now, do they know it's on hold? Really?
We'll make sure that's clearly
There we
communicated.
go. Okay, thank you,
Yeah, because,
because that doesn't, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Also, the data that we've been collecting, a lot of data that I've been presenting to you is really around bag data, early warning system, behavior,
Yeah.
attendance, and grades. So that's a lot of the data that we've just been using to kind of move us forward, along with also the classroom observations, walkthroughs with the administrators working with Lisa Minor. And I'm gonna ask Lisa to kind of share some of the data that we're actually collecting right now. Lisa, want to kind of talk about some of the data we're collecting?
Yeah, like, we meet every 3 weeks, the principals come in and they bring, multitudes of data that is about the transformation. What do the learning walks look like? What's the quality of instruction in the classroom? What are the teacher-based team main focus of the strategies that they're using? Just continuing the work. How many students have Ds and Fs or are operating below level? What do the action plans look like, the academic and behavioral plans look like? Which ones are effective? Which ones do we still need to revise? So it's a multitude of metrics that we're collecting that can help the entire district move forward, and that's building based. So that's part of the data that we're just doing the work. And building leadership teams are meeting around that data. Teacher-based teams are meeting around that data while we're waiting for the district improvement plan to be completed. Then they'll just merge that in with their plans.
So we just want to make sure that that's clear.
Thank you. Any other questions around the DLT? Thank you.
You're welcome.
We already talked about our broadcasting
Correct.
policy, so we're gonna just move on to our student representative comments. We'll start with you, Aaliyah.
I had a question, or like a suggestion. I was just wondering, is it possible to look into getting an ACT tutor for the Saturday program at the high school? You know, how they like the Saturday from 9 to 12. I was just saying, could we do an additional like ACT tutor for all students rather than just like the Apex training, credit recovery? And also for a few updates for PS Pride, they we just had a community service opportunity this past weekend at the Pioneer Fest. So students were able to sign up and volunteer there. And also we're conducting a mentoring program. So two seniors will be paired up with 10 freshmen to mentor through their freshman year.
Right, Natasha?
The only concern I have is as far as getting our FAFSA done and help with financial aid and scholarships. Like for instance, today during the PS Pride meeting, I, as well as other seniors, were just informed that there is a gentleman there from Sinclair that has been there, I guess, for years now, coming in for years. No one has known about it. And he was there to help us with like scholarships and getting into college and going through processes for things such as that. And nobody knew about it. And it's great that we have someone like that there to help us and guide us through it. But I guess my thing is we need better communication. Because what's the use if he's there and nobody's using it or using that opportunity? So I think that's very important that we're aware, us students are aware.
How did you find out about it?
Well, he was there checking in on our PS Pride meeting.
Okay.
And Miss Miracle, who's over it, one of the counselors, she had asked did we all know him, and we didn't. So then he introduced himself.
So, sounds like communication.
Find out who the person is and what the process is.
that seems to be resonating throughout, not knowing that we have all these additional resources available, so definitely have to get a system in place for that. Thank you. All right. Oop, computer went, oh, okay. All right, treasurer's comments? Thank you.
Yes, I had just a couple comments. Your finance packets are in front of you. The finance committee and I did go through them. Just one FYI for everyone, we did receive our real estate taxes in the amount of $3.2 million. That was only $47,000 less than the year before. So that makes us 47% of the total that we estimated for the May 5-year forecast. So that's pretty good. Ms. Moore asked me to get credit cards for all board members. Those credit cards did come in, but before we want to issue them, there were some policies that we wanted to make sure that were in place. The other thing, Ms. Jeter Freeman, I have to send you it back because your name is spelled wrong. So I just wanted an FYI for that. And then Mr. Scarce had asked for me to ask Carl Keith, who is our county auditor, to come to speak, and he will be here at the work session on November 1st. And that was all I had.
Thank you. Superintendent comments?
Yes, and actually mine's in regards to a letter that was sent home. We sent out a FERPA letter, and that's again about opting out, allowing parents to opt out of any public information being shared with them. The only person that actually has access would then be the military by law. So I think in the past, I think the FERPA letter had been inside the student handbooks. And this time I want to make sure, because they had to have parents sign off, they can opt out of it. I want to make sure that we actually had the information out to parents. So we sent it out as a letter, and some of the confusion was that there was not a sign-off place for the parents, so they were calling the buildings. Mr. Gregory has addressed that and sent the email to the staff and to the building principal, and let them know that forward information to them. If a parent would like to opt out of their information being public, they sign off on it and send it back. The buildings then will scan the information to the district office to Mr. Gregory, so he can then have that student's name blocked for anyone anyone as an outsider who requests information is blocked then. The other part, we talked about the quality profile. We sent a letter out about our quality profile. We have a report card, we got our D in that, and we're really good. But I say good, not as good as a D, but it's not an F. But the quality profile really talks about who we are as Trotwood, and it gives a much more holistic view of what's going on in Trotwood. So we have the information out there. We want our parents and community members to look at that quality profile and look at all the wonderful things that are actually happening in Trotwood, not just looking at a report card that may not always tell the whole story of what's going on in Trotwood Madison City Schools. The last thing that I shared with you earlier, investigating a 3-day professional development opportunity for our staff, working with the TMEA, but also want to share with the board, it's a way for us to really dive deep into the professional development. We started the PBIS back in the summer and the fall, but how far have we come? We know we're stuck at level 1 4 years later. So at some point we have time to really drive deeper into the positive behavior intervention supports. We also got to look at co-teaching. And so a lot of things we're talking about right now is really being driven from SST and from the state review of all the things that we really need to be looking at. So I'll be coming back and sharing information to the board in regards to 3-day calamity days really for the students. So they'll be home, we can do training for our staff. That's all I have. Oh, sorry, one last thing. We did Tuesday nights at Tyrone, an attempt to engage the community. We started this past Tuesday. Again, it's just a way for us to try to reach out to the community so they can hear about things behind the scenes. This first week we had Marlon on, talk about operations, what's going on in operations, what are some of the concerns and challenges, and how might they overcome those. We had Ella Jordan Isaac on as well, talking about parent engagement and what does that really look like. Aaron was walking by and I grabbed Aaron and pulled him in, and I shared with the community at that time, have open office hours on Tuesday from 4 until 7 p.m. But Aaron came in and started talking around diversity, equity, and inclusion. What does that look like for our community? So every other week I'll be on, I'll be bringing in different guest speakers just to talk about their area, our department, and what are some of the concerns, challenges, and what are the things that they have in place, and where would they like to go in the future. That's it.
Where did you say your office hours, your open office hours?
4 to 7.
Every day?
No. Well, no, I'm here at 7 all the time, but no, it's Tuesday. Well, I'm actually making a very purposeful and deliberate, having it on Tuesdays.
Thank you. Board committee reports, if any?
I did have just one, and it's really just an update. Back in February, I had the opportunity to testify in front of the Government Accountability and Oversight Committee in Columbus, and it just kind of want to keep it in the forefront of House Bill 512, which is an attempt to combine the Department of Workforce Development, Higher Education, to create a K-16 instead of a K-12 type of educational structure, with a lot of focus around career tech. So just kind of keeping that, you know, that's gonna be a lot of focus around career tech and dollars and things along those lines. So I just wanted to make sure there was more talk about it, and the lobbyist from OSBA kind of sent out an email about it. So.
I know Mr. Andrews has been in contact with the Trotwood Educational Foundation, and so he wanted to share some information, and he'll share it with us on Saturday. So he's actually jumping on those calls and getting that process started. Okay, board comments. We'll start with you, Mr. Scarce.
I did want to know a little bit more about, and maybe we can talk about it Saturday, just about the lunch and the breakfast, or more so the breakfast. There's talk that the kids are only getting about 15 minutes to eat. And there was some concern because there are maybe kids out there where that is their only opportunity to eat. And so if they're late, do they have the option to continue, to go back and eat, or kind of what that looks like? And just as a point of reference, maybe we can get some more information about how that's happening in places like the ELC and the elementary school. And then I had the opportunity just yesterday to meet with a group of pastors. And I know we've discussed before about some faith-based collaboration. And they are ready, willing, and able to be called upon in any capacity that the district would need. They really just need to know what schools need, where they can help, and what that relationship looks like. Other than that, that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Bozeman?
Okay, just a couple of things. I really enjoyed attending the fall 2018 graduation today. That was probably the highlight of my week, so I really, really enjoyed attending that. Saturday we have our retreat, and I'm looking forward to it, even though I was looking probably more forward to being in the breast cancer walk and having lunch with my friends on Saturday. But since I can't do that, the retreat will be quite wonderful because it'll be our first time to kind of recalibrate after the report card. And so I'm looking forward to kind of talking about moving forward, what we're going to be doing and putting those plans into place and really nailing a few things down that may still be loose. And then also tomorrow I'll be attending a seminar on a session on childhood trauma and how it affects students in the classroom and learning. And I'm happy to share that information with the board maybe at another retreat.
That would be great. Wonderful. Ms. Teacher, please.
Well, the three of Ms. Bozeman, Ms. Moore, and myself got to attend the Southwest Regional Fall Conference, where our teachers, or our principals, I'm so sorry, Ms. Sterner and Ms. Mallory were awarded plaques for their programs that will be featured at the Ohio School Boards Association. We really appreciate you and appreciate you participating in the program. And tonight was so nice. It was really nice. That young man was so happy with this bill. But we're moving forward, and I'm not going to say much because I know you all are tired. You've been here all day, so thank you for everything you do.
Okay. And I'll keep it really short. I too really enjoyed the fall graduation, and I know we talked about looking at how we might change that, because there are students that graduate early, and we want to make sure that we embrace all those students, so really nice. Additionally, the Southwest Conference, congratulations, we're really proud of you. And additionally, the 21st Century after-school program, I had an opportunity to visit with Miss Mallory in Westbrook. I went over just to see if there was, just to see how it was going, also to see how I could help. See if there were kids there, right? Because I know they're giving us enough, we trust, but we verify, all right? just saying, all right? And there really were kids there. And additionally, I was, Miss Bab, is it Bab? Mm-hmm. She is so organized. I mean, she is super organized. The staff they were just excellent. The students were engaged. The kids were getting their homework done, but 3 days early. But then they had these packets for the kids and the kids were asking for more work. So I thought that was really interesting. I know it's still the second week and they're still working out a few bugs with the computers and that sort of thing. But for the most part, it's going really good week 2. One thing that I did want to mention though, we need to make sure that, I don't know, Janice, if we were able to streamline the processes for getting the teachers or the tutors any type of resources that they would need, supplies, because we want to make sure nobody's going in their pocket and buying things. And again, they are. I mean, I was told we bought this, and I'm like, why? And again, I know that at one time it was tedious process, but we need to make sure that we get those teachers what they need, like colored pencils and that sort of stuff, so that they're not spending their own money. I actually asked her to turn in a receipt. I know it would be a then and now, but, you know, which is a problem, right, Mr. Overson? Right? But again, you know, that's one thing. I know Mr. Scares on opening day, what did you say? Teachers?
Yeah, whatever you need, we got it.
Yeah, all right. So, yes.
This past week, we're looking at the purchase order process, and Mrs. Williams actually brought the point out that we need to bring some teachers and the principals and sit down to see what their needs are, and so that we can make sure that we haven't developed this process and it really doesn't address their needs. And so we have that on the to-do list to do that. So we are working on that.
That's great. Thank you. Just as a reminder, the Trotwood Harvest Fun Walk is Saturday, October 27th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Legacy Park. So the district's gonna have a booth, Mr. Howard, and anybody is free to go and pass out candy in a costume. Oh, I added that, all right. Also, our NSBA conference is coming up March 30th through April 1st. Make sure that you get with Ms. Allen and or Kim and let them know if you plan on attending and make the arrangements. Mr. Overson, thank you so much for catching that on the fall postcard. When will the new ones come out? Guys, some of the goals are duplicated. Yeah, even though Mrs. Freeman and I worked on this together.
As we actually, one of our staff was actually called and said, hey guys, there's something I want to make sure you guys see this.
Okay.
Again, to the layperson who's reading, reads like it's our work.
Yeah.
One of the individuals did catch it though. Marlon just shared with me just now that it just went to the printer today, Marlon. Went to the printer, get them back out.
This is the new one, guys, the fall one. Okay, wonderful. Other than that, thank you guys for sticking and staying with us this evening. We really appreciate it. Okay, go right ahead.
I forgot, this morning I had the honor of attending the the Honor Society induction, and our two student board representatives were there and were inducted. And so they yeah. So,
Was it Honor Society or Student Government?
it was student government.
And leadership.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was the student government leadership, and they're gonna recruit a few more out there, guys, because it's heavily female, but, it was a really good group. We didn't have a lot of, people there though, so that was a little disappointing, because it was just the students, so, yeah.
So
So
kind of
next
goes back to
time,
communication.
they might get to plan what they want that to look like.
Yes.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
I was gonna ask the students, what offices do you guys hold? Where were you inducted?
Well, they inducted class officers too, so I was inducted for the president of the class.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I already held the position. I got elected last year. We just got elected this year.
Okay.
So Leah,
And I had got inducted in front of everyone for being president of student government.
Okay, yeah, so you've been doing the work and, over your title, but this was the official induction.
so Ms. Trotwood, you're the president of the student government, and Ms. Holloway, you're
Class president.
class
Of the
president.
senior class.
Okay,
So we got like 2 presidents.
we do.
Yeah, we got 3 presidents sitting up here. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Well, thank you all. Is there any more business to come before the board? Okay. Oh, I need a motion. I need a motion. Look, I'm really quick. I'm too quick, right? Yeah, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. All right. No questions about that? Ms. Allen, will you call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mrs. Bozeman?
Yes.
Mrs. Virginia Freeman?
Yes.
And Ms. Moore?
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned.
Yes.
Mr. Scarce, would you like to comment about this new video policy, please?
No,
No?
thank you. No comment.
No comment?
No, sir.
You won't say why it came up or what the issue is?
No.
No?
No
Okay.
comment.
And you're the one that authored it? This is your idea,
We as a board.
you as a board. Would any other board members like to respond about the new policy on videotaping of meetings?
I think Mr. Scaris summed it up.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.